Let's get started with SQL programming. If we want to connect to the class server to do SQL programming, here are the connection values we need to enter in our SQL IDE. We need to get the login and the password from the lab file. It's very important we document our SQL code. There are two ways we can document our SQL code. We can use these two dashes. Anything after these two dashes until the end of the line is our documentation. Or we can use this pair of symbols. Anything between this pair of symbols is our documentation. We can even have several paragraphs between this pair of symbols. That's a lot of documentation. We use AdventureWorks for our exercise. This SQL command use can get to the database we want. We need to use AdventureWorks 2008 R2 or any version after it. We use the select statement to get data from our database. There are several clauses in the select statement. In the select clause, we specify the columns we want to get the data from. If we want to get all columns, then we can use this special symbol asterisk. Otherwise, we need to list the columns in the select clause. We need to list the columns we want to get the data from. We put the table we want to get the data from in the from clause. Pay attention to the table name. In this example, we have production.product. There are two parts of a table name. The first part is the schema. The second part is the table name. They are separated by a period. We use a schema to help us organize our tables. Schemas can also be used for managing permissions. In this example, we get data from all columns of the product table. Here, we only get data from some columns. We can use the where clause to filter out the data we want. In this example, we filter by a character string. If we have a character string, we need to put the string in a pair of single quotation marks, like here. In our SQL IDE, colors have special meanings. Pay attention to what colors mean in your IDE. Aliases are very useful and important for SQL programming. Simply speaking, we use aliases for three purposes. We can use an alias to create a meaningful and descriptive column header. We can also use aliases to minimize the typing when we do SQL programming. Lastly, we can use aliases to reference to the different copies of the same table. It's commonly used in advanced SQL programming. We use the aggregate functions a lot when we do SQL programming. Here, we use count, and count is an aggregate function. We are counting the credit card numbers in the credit card column of the sales order header table. The result is here. If we just want to get the unique credit card numbers, we can use the distinct keyword. This is a very good example for learning about different aggregate functions, also different ways to specify an alias. Pay very close attention to this example. The results are here. When we use an aggregate function to do data aggregation, very often we use an aggregate function together with the group by clause. Here, we use count together with group by, and we group by two columns, customer ID and account number. The results are here. Read through the data and make sure we understand how the count function and the group by clause work together. When we do data aggregation and we use the group by clause, there is a syntax rule we have to follow. All of the non-aggregated columns in the select clause must be included in the group by clause. If we do not follow this syntax rule, we will get an error. This is the error. If we want to learn more about what we just went over, here are some very good resources. These websites are very informative. Now it's your turn. We don't learn SQL programming by watching other people run their code. We need to experiment with the code, and we need to run the code ourselves. This is the end of the discussion.